movie begins, and we see a couple, Nigel and Fiona, who were traveling on a cruise ship. They had been married for a long time, but their relationship was not going well. To improve this relationship, he was coming to India on both the vacations. When Fiona goes to the bathroom, then he meets a France girl, the one who was crying a lot as well as she was looking sick. Now here Nigel and Fiona help the girl. After dinner in the evening, Fiona goes to sleep, but Nigel couldn't sleep. That's why he shows up in the cruise bar, where he sees a girl who was dancing. After a while that girl has come and sat near Nigel. It was the same girl whose Nigel and Fiona helped. Her name was Mimi. Here Mimi starts talking to Nigel, and also tries to seduce him. But when there is no response from Nigel, she leaves from there. At night when Nigel was watching the moon, then a man comes to her, who was in a wheelchair. Oscar tells Nigel he was a failed writer. Oscar, that Mimi is very dangerous, and he tells you to stay away from him, that he has done this condition to me. Nigel couldn't understand what he wanted to say. Then Oscar calls that I am Mimi's husband. He brings Nigel to his room to tell about himself, to say that Oscar and Mimi were husband-wife, but both lived in different rooms. Now here Oscar Nigel starts telling about himself. He says that he lived in Paris, when one day he was traveling in a bus. So the first time he sees Mimi, he was traveling in the same bus. Oscar likes Mimi so much, who was working as a waiter in that hotel. He leaves the girl and starts talking to Mimi. With great difficulty he met Mimi, and he didn't want to miss this opportunity. Mimi also recognizes Oscar. Oscar says that I helped you. He requests Mimi to come on a date. Mimi agrees to this too, and the two go on a date. Both of them talk a lot. Mimi has to become a dancer, but there is shortage of money. That's why she is working as a waiter. They both get so lost in each other, they don't even know when the night passes. Oscar says that I searched you everywhere. Did you think that you will be able to meet me again? Then Mimi takes out that ticket from her purse, which Oscar had given him. Then Oscar realizes that Mimi also started liking him. Both of them then go to Oscar's apartment, and both become intimate. Oscar says that he is very lucky. He says that he found such a beautiful girl. After that both of them stayed in that house for 3 days. Now their relationship started, but both were so thirsty for each other that his heart was not filling. As time passed, their desire kept on increasing. Oscar started telling all these things in such detail that Nigel started feeling uncomfortable and leaves from there. Now the next morning Nigel tells all this to Fiona. When Nigel and Fiona were having dinner, that's when Oscar and Mimi arrive. After a while Mimi leaves from there. Oscar tells Fiona that I want to talk to your husband something. Can you leave her with me for 1 hour? So Fiona agrees. And Oscar takes Nigel to his room and starts telling his story. He says that we were both madly in love with each other. Ever since we met, our whole life has changed. He used to think that they will always be together. Whatever Oscar used to write, Mimi also liked it very much. In this way, both of them were very happy in their life. One day they both go to the bar, where Mimi's friend was also. Oscar starts talking to her, but Mimi thought he was flirting with her, so she also starts dancing with a boy to make Oscar feel jealous. When this is all Oscar sees, so he feels bad, and he leaves Mimi and goes home. When Mimi comes home, then Oscar was furious, says Mimi that you started this, still says sorry to Oscar and starts crying after clinging to him. It all ends as soon as it started, and both start living together again. Oscar was telling it all to Nigel. Then there comes Mimi, so Nigel leaves from there. On the other hand, now Fiona is also starting to doubt Nigel and Mimi when Nigel is alone. Then Mimi also meets him. She says don't believe anything about Oscar, mate. She also says this, that she wants to talk to him in private. She invites him to meet her at a time. Nigel also started getting attracted towards Mimi, so he goes to meet her, but that's an Oscar instead of a Mimi. Nigel gets angry seeing this. Then Oscar calls. That's what Mimi wants, that you listen to the whole story. This way you will get to know Mimi better. Nigel says, why are you doing all this? Apparently Oscar is paralyzed. That's why he is not able to fulfill Mimi's physical need. He has the same fear that Mimi will leave him someday. And then Oscar says that's why he takes his story forward by saying that I am looking for a right man for him. He says that one day he went to meet a publisher with Mimi, where because of Mimi the drink falls on its publisher, and she gets angry. Because of this, his meeting ends there. On coming home Oscar gets angry at Mimi. He says that I have not published a single book yet, and from above you are spoiling my work. Actually Oscar had gone from Mimi somewhere. Now he knows himself telling in this relationship. Mimi is also hurt by the words of Oscar and she starts packing her things and leaving. It seemed to him that Oscar would stop him, but that doesn't stop him. He just wanted Mimi to leave him, but Mimi comes back. She clings to the Oscar and starts crying. He has also apologized for that mistake. She says I love you so much, don't let me go like this. Oscar forgives her. and now he was feeling suffocated in this relationship. He felt that everyone else was having fun except him, while he is missing all this. Slowly now their relationship was fading. Mimi loved Oscar very much. She didn't want to leave him and go anywhere, but Oscar wanted to get rid of Mimi. One day there is an argument between the two, and Oscar also beats Mimi, causing her to faint. But when she regains consciousness, she laughs and forgives Oscar, and says I love you whenever something wrong happened between these two. Then even after Mimi was not at fault, she used to say sorry to Oscar. She did not want Oscar to leave her. That night, Oscar explains to Mimi that we have a relationship. It is going to happen sometime or the other. We both are not right for each other before our relationship gets spoiled. I should break up. We both have spent good time together. Let's just keep it like this. Mimi also understood what Oscar wanted to say. That's why she leaves from there crying. Oscar was now free after Mimi's departure, so he was doing whatever he came in. He goes to parties and has fun with friends, and flirts with girls. When he comes home one night, he sees that Mimi was waiting for him. She says crying to Oscar, whatever you feel, but I cannot live without you. She cries, pleads in front of Oscar. She even reads the feet of the Oscar. She tells him, if he wants to beat her, then he wants to sleep with another girl. So he can sleep, whatever he wants to do, can do. With this, he does not have any problem. Just do not remove him from himself. Then Oscar comes to mind that Mimi is not going to leave him so easily, so he starts torturing her. When both of them are intimate, so he takes the name of another girl. Mimi does all the housework. She starts living like a maid in a house whose Oscar had no value. He cleans her room, cooks her favorite dish. But Oscar never paces properly with Mimi and keeps on insulting him. He takes her with him to the party, and go there and insult him in front of other girls. Mimi had so much heart for all this but still was not ready to leave the Oscar. One day, Oscar gets scared when Mimi tells her that she is pregnant. He tells Mimi that I could not become a good writer. Do you think that I will be able to become a good father? Do you want that child to come to this house? He somehow convinces Mimi for an abortion. When Mimi is aborted, then Oscar comes to him. Mimi regrets missing her baby, but when Oscar comes to visit her, then she says with a laugh. After that, Oscar tells Mimi that it doesn't matter, that we are going on a trip to Miami. On the plane, Oscar tells Mimi that I am going to keep our luggage, but going ahead, he pretends like this in front of the pilot, that his stomach is hurting so he cannot travel. So the pilots drop him at the airport, and the flight takes off. He was watching the plane leaving the airport, so that Mimi also now understood that Oscar never belonged to him. Oscar fraudulently sends him to Miami, and this thing hurts him a lot. Hearing all this, Nigel gets shocked. He says whatever you are saying, it cannot be true, because if it happens then you would be feeling sorry for yourself. Now Nigel was lying here, that's why he leaves. He finds Mimi only when he comes out. Mimi tells Nigel that I want you to listen to the whole story. Now here Mimi kisses Nigel and says, after this we will meet alone in the night. Nigel then goes to Oscar and Oscar starts his incomplete story. He says that he was completely free because of not being with Mimi. He used to go to parties and have fun, and every night was intimate with the new girl. One day when he was returning home from a party, then he gets into an accident, and his leg gets fractured. When he was in the hospital, Mimi comes to meet him and Oscar is surprised to see him, because even after doing all this, how can anyone come back? Oscar asks her, what are you doing? Then Mimi says that you left me alone. After that I started working as a waiter in a hotel. The manager there was very good. As much as you hurt me, that much he loved me. After this Mimi starts leaving from there, but the very next moment she changes her mind. She knocks the Oscar down, because of which he gets paralyzed. But worse is this, that Mimi now seems to be taking care of Oscar, but she used to torture him only in the name of taking care, like giving him the same food every day, giving him insulation at the same place every day, and doing whatever comes to mind, which Oscar did with Mimi. Mimi was now taking her revenge. She left no stone unturned to torture him. One day, on Oscar's birthday, Mimi gifts him a pistol so that Oscar can commit suicide if he wants. She brings a boy home one day to make Oscar feel jealous, and she gets intimate with him. Mimi marries Oscar for torturing Oscar like this. Oscar tells Nigel that I always have this fear, that Mimi will find some good man and leave me, because if she leaves then Oscar has no one in this world. So that's what Oscar wants, so that Mimi does not fall in love with anyone. Now Nigel had heard the whole story of Oscar. At night there is a party on the ship, in which Nigel meets Mimi and starts dancing with her. This Nigel tries to kiss Mimi, but Mimi tells him to stop, that your wife is watching us. After this Fiona and Mimi also start dancing, and goes to both the rooms, where both are intimate also. Nigel gets very angry seeing this, and he starts throttling Oscar. Then the Oscar takes out his gun, and sleeping on Mimi shoots twice. and kills him, then commits suicide himself, and that ends the story forever. Nigel and Fiona realize that what was going wrong between them has now been fixed in the movie